irrationally irritated all the time, can't stay at peace inside your body? There's the key right there. So today we're going to talk about that irrational irritation, no matter how much inner work we do, that just keeps popping up all day long, all month, all our lives. And how can we overcome that? And so welcome if you're new, and welcome back if you're not. And today on this channel, we're going to describe different ways to look at things so that we can logically and practically get to some spiritual understandings that can help shift our lives, and hopefully in ways you haven't heard before. So let's get to it. Okay, be with me here, people. Irrationally irritated. So the biggest thing we have to overcome to start to ease that in our lives, and we're really have to be desirous of that. In the beginning of my awakening, I kept hearing my awareness, my silent self, my soul saying, become a walking meditation. And so fast forward, what are we at, 15 years? And it's like, oh, I really get what that means at a deeper level. So there's going to be different, I thought I got it then, and deeper I get it differently. So let's look at some of the layers and ways that I've come to the understanding of what that means, and how we're at irrationally irritated all the time, and how we can merge those things together so that we're not feeling pulled around by the environment and feeling triggered, right? Okay, so in the days of old, and just bear in mind, we're going to go through a lot of logic, so because I'm the type of person that logic really helps me understand. So even though we should try to just feel into things and start to shift our energy and our emotional body, some people need some logic to understand it, and unfortunately we loop the same logic. So here we're going to try to expand it into different things. So let's start with understanding that in the days of old, the monks that went up in the Tibetan mountains and they just hum, and they transcend their body. That was kind of the modality of awakening then. It was like, we're going to transcend our body, our animalistic nature, right? So right there in itself, we can understand that the body has some sort of nature that it is accustomed to, or its natural inherent way of doing things, right? And we are on repeat with that, and that plays into our rational irritation, because our body is still picking up the sensory information in the environment, and it is reacting to that. And so fast forward, what I believe is happening on the planet now is that we're meant to not transcend the body, which just means our higher self is out here floating and our body is down here just doing its thing. We could also add non-playing characters to that, because if you're in a rigid body program over and over again, you've done the same thing for 30 years, you are a non-playing character, because your body consciousness is just on repeat. So you're not expanding out of that. So the higher self is just kind of here, and there's maybe one cord to the body of your consciousness to help that. You need some kind of spark of consciousness to keep going. So fast forward with the whole, we want to bring our higher self into the body. So we're merging mind, body, spirit, right? And so what that means is this awakening is taking us to overcoming the body consciousness and embodying our higher self. Instead of it being disconnected, we're going to merge it to become one. And so in the Bible, they say that is the marriage of the bride and the groom. So the bride being the spirit of the unseen, and the groom being the body, the seen, the physical form, right? And so how do we start to do that? Because I'm sure you've heard this before, but I want to say it in a whole bunch of different ways so we can understand. And so the first thing is to bring awareness that this is happening. Your two selves are your higher self, where in meditation you start to slow down, and you're really at peace and one with yourself, and then you get up out of meditation, or you get out of your sleep and you're feeling good, and then immediately the environment starts to provoke you. It's not provoking you, you're true essence, your soul, it's provoking your body through your senses. Your body, we were taught this in elementary school, you know, the five senses, right? And so what's happening is that we're still trying to kind of do what we've always done. We're trying to transcend the body. And so the more we do that, the more disconnected we are from the body, and the more automated the body is to be triggered. Because higher self versus lower self, body versus soul, we can see that we need higher intelligence. We need consciousness inside our body to overcome these automatic central nervous system patterns that we've repeated. I believe they're in our genetic code. So a long time. So how do we start to bring our higher self into our body and allow our body to be reprogrammed? That's really what's happening right now. And so how do we allow that to happen? Because the more we don't, the more we create that separation and we don't bring our awareness into our body, the more lunacy is going to prevail in our lives. It's going to be chaos. As you can see, people are getting highly triggered, especially the woke community, because they're doing this and their body is on autopilot to act even more irrational. Okay? And there's no judgment here. We're looking at concepts so that we can start to do the work that's going to actually make us feel good in our body. Okay? So let's get to some tips and tricks. Okay. If the body is in an automatic program, if our central nervous system and our fascia and all the things that connect us to the matrix, our sensory systems that are connected to the matrix, and then, you know, which is the environment, and then the environment, you know, feeds that information so that it can react. And most of that body programming is to keep us safe and in control. Everybody's heard that. The ego is the body. And so how do we start to embody our higher self instead of letting that auto programming happen? Well, the word is clear, program. So we have to reprogram ourselves. And so, you know, the first part, my first teacher that the universe brought me, she was very clear that we're going to sit with our emotions and get out of our mind. No logic, just feel that reaction, that irritation in this example, and sit with it until you can shift it. So it's like an inner alchemy, right? Well, as I started to recognize I'm air sign dominant, and I have Virgo in the 12th house, which is the house that we use to release old things. And Virgo is the mind-body connection. So I'm actually pretty blessed to have it when I used to think I was cursed. But it's helping me release this mind-body stuff that I'm doing. So not to get too woo-woo, but we want to look at all different concepts to understand. And so what we really have to do for people that are logic driven, that can't just sit with their emotions and learn to shift them and cultivate new feelings inside, I would highly recommend to reprogram yourself using your mind and your words. So let's just talk about the elephant in the room. When we are in the autopilot programs and irritated, we do the same thing. And so stopping that is the hardest thing on earth. I think this is what Jesus meant by your cross. It's your cross to bear. Are you going to go this way in your automatic stuff that you do? Or are you going to do a new thing? And it is extremely hard. It's a cross to bear. So what is the number one tool that I've learned using logic to stop this automated thing I do? Because I'm telling you right now, if you don't start to do the work that we're discussing now, your body is always going to be irrationally irritated. You can evolve and ascend as high as you want in understanding. You can talk to your guides. You can do all the things that they talk about. But if you don't start getting inside your body, none of that matters. Because your body is the thing here on this earth. You want to treat your kids better. You want to have better bosses, because your body is the instrument that's sending the codes to the environment. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you are. And what you are is this. This is your first creation. It is the tool. It's the instrument. It's the attractor. It's the thing that does everything in this reality, right? And so if you aren't saying to yourself, this is the most important part right now in my journey, especially with Uranus moving into Gemini, you're going to have a lot of issues, because Uranus in Gemini, to me, is healing that duality. So, and that duality is your body versus your soul. Just another way of looking at it. So, what can we do? The only thing there is to do in the beginning to initiate this process of overcoming the body programming is to program it by recognizing, I'm irritated. What is my mind saying to do? Because the doing is of the ego. We've all heard that, right? But let's take it one step further. The ego is the body, right? And so the body is going to think, brain, physical, and do, body, pattern based on the trigger, the irritation, okay? And so the only way to stop that, right, would be to recognize that from your soul level and then reprogram the body to do something different, like they talk about in science, from 3 to 8. So we could have inherited this from, the sensory stuff that we got in our environment. If we had a chaotic childhood, we've got patterns and programs, but I think it's deeper than that. I think it's genetic, as they study epigenetics. We're inheriting a lot, or we're bringing it from past lives. So either way, whatever you want to think, whatever your jam is, this is deep. So the number one thing you can do for your life in this respect is to recognize that your body is on autopilot in the way that it reacts to the sensory triggers from the environment. And you have to reprogram it if we're going to use logic versus what my energy teacher taught me, the alchemy. So how do we do that? We tell the body it's okay, you're safe. Because a lot of times these are trauma responses, right? You're walking through the store and you feel irrationally triggered because you saw that the milk was up $3. It's okay. You're safe. Because this isn't about, well, if I think that, then I'm going to be in poverty because I'm not safe because the milk's too expensive. I can't make enough money. But you got to understand, your body is sending out that poverty on autopilot. Okay? And how does that work? If we're always irrationally triggered, we're never getting ahead in life. We're taking one step forward, 2 steps back, because our body is doing all kinds of self-sabotage. So be with me here. You're safe. Somebody cuts you off in traffic and you're irrationally rageful, you're safe. And then you're going to hear it. Your mind's going to be like, no, you're not. That dude needs to learn. He needs not to be driving like that. He's going to hurt somebody, this, that. This isn't your war. Your war is inside first. Okay? Everything is happening because our body is on autopilot. And it doesn't matter how much spiritual work you do. You got to get into it. You got to feel the nervous system. Feel the reactions. Feel the hormonal changes in your body, the spikes in cortisol, all of those things are happening because that is the chemical response that the body has to these sensory triggers, right? And so then you could even go further. That's where the health issues come from, all these things. So we got to get inside our body with our higher self. So you're safe. So we're going to just start reprogramming the body, right? And then this is going to be a huge thing on YouTube for sure. But I want to give it to you in practical steps. And the reason it is because Uranus is a collective thing. Uranus moving into Gemini, to me, that's becoming one with God, because remember, that opposes Sagittarius, and I do study a lot of evolutionary astrology, and where things are, it's opposing. That's the friction. And so 3rd and 9th house for me is, being at one with the matrix, so to speak, and 9th is being at one with God. So when Uranus does this transit, collectively, everybody's going to be talking about the central nervous system and all these things, because we want to get that 3rd and 9th house union with God and with the environment. And so You have to remind yourself, program yourself into you're safe. Because the more you do that, you're teaching the body that when sensory things come, you don't have to have those same reactions to feel safe and in control. You can recognize that you're safe, because a lot of times you are safe. The guy that cut you off in traffic, you're still safe. You're going to buy the milk. You're safe. You know, you've made it this far. But the body is going to keep tripping, right? Okay, so let's just wrap this up with a, you know, a mantra. What is a mantra that you can make for yourself to remind yourself, right? When you're being irrationally triggered all the time, because you're going to keep being irrationally triggered if you don't reprogram your central nervous system, your body. You are. So this is real work, real tangible, practical work that you can do. And so I would highly recommend having a safe word, just one word. When you feel that irrational trigger, safe. You're safe. Safe, 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 right? Okay. So I hope this video helps you get it started. We're going to deep dive in a lot of topics on this throughout this transit. I'm very blessed to have Gemini in my 9th house and the asteroid union, so I do feel like I'm getting a lot of union energy as this transit happens. So let's get to it. And if you would like a report from me, so I do psychic report or I do an astrology report, and both of them are based in helping you understand your patterns and what you're repeating, so we can kind of get to the core of why your body's being triggered. So you will find a link down in the show notes, and until next time, take care.